All in Sports Network. We love sports.
It is Friday, November 14th, here on your daily fix for all things Texas Longhorns. I'm Tanner Carlson. That is Jake Jimerson, and this is All In Horns presented to you by Rogue Sports Network. Jake, it is week 12. It is Texas versus Georgia. We're going to dive right into our picks and predictions throughout the entire slate of games, but we are going to start off, as we always do, giving our keys to victory and our keys to success for the Texas Longhorns against the Georgia Bulldogs. And yeah, Jake, we've talked about it at almost exhaustion this entire week. It's all been Texas, Georgia. We've had no room for discussion of anything else going on. This is a do or die game. It feels like your postseason lives are at stake here, and so. Jake, I'll start with you. Some keys to victory, some things that have to go Texas's way, some things Texas is going to have to stop Georgia from doing, or counter what Georgia is doing to have success Saturday night.
Yeah, I mean, for me, there's two keys, and I'm going to go away from kind of the ones I typically always do. And so my two kind of just main keys to the game that I think could lead to a Texas victory is you got to start fast. Georgia's been a better second half team this year than they have first half. Obviously, we know the fourth quarter comeback against Ole Miss when it seemed like they were dead in the water. They also, I think they held Alabama scoreless or to only 3 points in that second half of that loss. So Alabama won that game because they started fast. And so they have been a second half team this year because they wear you down with their size and ability and talent in the trenches. And then Stockton,
They held Alabama scoreless in the second half. It was
yeah,
24-14 at halftime.
yeah, and so they've been a second half team, defensively and offensively, really. And so you gotta come out and you gotta start fat. You don't want to be chasing points on the road in Athens. It's just it's not going to work. The only thing that should be getting chased in Athens is their wide receivers when they're driving on the freeway. And that was a good little zinger in there. I'm gonna give myself a pat in the back. So a fast start, and then special teams. I think Texas lost the special teams battle badly in both games last year with missed field goals, terrible punting. Think about how many times Georgia flipped the field. In that first game, Georgia always had good field position because guess what? Georgia was going 3 and out, but they were getting a 50-yard punt. And then Texas would go 3 and out or 1 first down and then have to punt. And then they would get a 30-yard punt. And it swung the field position badly all game. And so if they have a fast start and they win the special teams battle for all 4 quarters, I think that's going to be a great formula to win this football game.
Jake, mine are you've got to stop the run. You got to stop the power run game from Georgia. And with Billy Napier going to their practices, that's going to be one of his keys of what he saw against this Texas defense is some weak spots, whether that be at the linebacker position, at the safety help, but getting big chunk plays in the run game. And so if Texas cannot keep Georgia from getting 4 to 5 yards on first and second down, Texas will not have a ton of success on the defensive side of the ball, in my opinion, because if they can establish the running game, then Texas is going to be overly committed to stopping that running game, and that's going to free up Gunnar Stockton to do whatever it is that he wants to do with his wide receivers. This wide receiver core last year, Jake, for Georgia, if everybody remembers correctly, led the nation in drops last year. This wide receiver core inevitably is better than what we saw last year. And Gunnar Stockton is also better at extending the pocket, moving the pocket. Now, believe it or not, we mentioned this, I think, Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday's episode, Jake. Texas is one of the more familiar teams against Gunnar Stockton. And the entire SEC got to play against him in the SEC championship game, at least briefly. And he came in the home game, too, against Texas because Carson Beck was playing terribly. Is that right?
I don't think he came in the first time. I
No,
think it was just the second game he played, I think the entire second half and overtime, the Georgia offense was much better with him in than Carson Beck was. But Carson Beck going down was the best thing that happened to Georgia in that game because
Yeah.
they probably don't score enough points to even go to overtime with Carson Beck in because Texas tortured Carson Beck.
Yeah. So with that being said, though, I think, and along the lines of what you were saying with starting fast, very crucial that happens. But you got to stop the running game. And then for Texas, you just have to protect Arch. I'm not even talking in lines of establishing a running game, a viable running game. I don't think Texas is going to have a team this year that's just going to be able to lean on the running backs and lean on the run game. So take that out of the equation entirely and focus all your efforts on giving Arch Manning as much time in the pocket for his receivers to get down the field, for them to get open off of the corners of Georgia, and then for Arch to deliver a solid pass. That's what this offense is going to have to be this year. And if he doesn't have time and he's getting pressured, which was, again, the two keys for Florida's success, Georgia is going to try to emulate. And it's going to be power run on offense, and it's going to be getting pressure on Arch Manning. And they're going to be able to stop the run just inevitably because Texas can't run the football this year. So get pressure on Arch and establish the run game on offense for Georgia. That's how they will have success. And if Texas can prevent them from doing those two things, I think we can see Texas have some success and be in this game come the fourth quarter. Now, I do think that this is a toss-up game, Jake. I'm not entirely confident. Confidence level added 2. I'll be honest with you. I'm not overly confident that Texas is going to come out of this game with a win.
Yeah, if you're talking confidence of winning the game, I'm probably at like a 3.5. I think the line's about right. I think 5.5. Georgia being a 5.5 point favorite is about the right spread for this game. When you just consider it's on the road, Georgia's been a better football team than Texas has been this year. I would fully expect Georgia to be, close to a touchdown favorite, which is right about where they are. I think that line's actually giving Texas a little bit of respect because I could have seen it being 6.5 or maybe even 7. So I do think Texas getting respect for the recent play, but I think Georgia's a better complete football team. I think Georgia's the best all-around football team Texas has played against this year outside of Ohio State. I think
And
it's the most
probably at the state of where Ohio State was at the beginning of the year, Georgia's probably a better version than that team is now.
Yes, I mean, Georgia's not going to be holding back on game. I mean, Texas and Ohio State held back game plan in that game. That was a very vanilla game plan from both teams, knowing they had young teams led by young signal callers, and knew they didn't need to do anything fancy on defense. That Texas Ohio State game was so. If those two teams play again right now, the structure of the game plan would just look completely different than what we saw in that first game. It would look like a completely different football game. I don't know if that is a good thing or a bad thing for Texas, but it would for sure look like a different football game. So yeah, to your point, Ohio State's a better, well-rounded team than Georgia, I think. I think as far as at the level of opponent when they've played them, Georgia's going to be the best team Texas has played against this year. And I don't think it's particularly close. I think Georgia's a much better football team than Oklahoma, much better than Vanderbilt, and much better, obviously, than anyone else on the schedule. And so this is a great test to see if this Texas team has figured it out or if they're just not good enough this year to win these types of games. And we're going to find out. And I hope it's a competitive game. I hope Texas comes out and, doesn't have to play from behind and can stay in this game and, make an upset, because this would be a pretty big upset, in my opinion.
I think so.
I don't think many people are going to be picking Texas to win this game. I don't think I'm probably going to be picking Texas to win this game because I just think there's too much body of work that Georgia has shown that Texas really hasn't, especially consistently.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, Jake. All right, here we go. Time for predictions. All right, I think in terms of player prediction, game predictions, I think Texas is actually going to come out in this game playing pretty good football. and I think that they're actually going to be leading after the first quarter 7-3. I think they're going to be trailing at halftime 17-7. And then I think they lose this football game outright by the end of it. I'm going to say 32-17. Georgia wins this one. I just think that they take control. I think the struggles that we've seen from Texas in the entire season is really gonna come to light here in this game, a night game at Athens. Texas has been just fighting and clawing for every win. Yeah, they came out looked really good against Vanderbilt, but still that game wasn't really comfortable at the end of the game, unfortunately. Now that had a big part to do with the referees and them trying to make this game closer because they obviously had money on that game. That's not an argument. That's facts. It's come out. Those officials have been arrested and thrown in college football jail, according to me. And I'm reporting that first here on Longhorns. But yeah, no, this is a matchup that I don't really love for Texas this game. So I'm gonna say 32-17. Georgia wins this one.
Yeah, I'm gonna go 34-24. Georgia, I think they pull away come the fourth quarter. I think Texas does keep it competitive into the third quarter, and then Georgia kind of pulls away with it. I just don't trust this defense like I did last year. I know they're getting Taff and McDonald back. They had games where they weren't looking good with Taff and McDonald in. I hope they go out there and prove me wrong, but the Vanderbilt game was a good game until it wasn't defensively. They had a bad coverage bust at the end of the first half, and then they obviously had a horrible coverage bust in the fourth quarter. That one was not on the officials. Now the rest of the scores I would put on the officiating. But that one was definitely not, just leaving Vanderbilt's best receiving threat wide open. Now, did they have their starters in? No. But I just don't fully trust this defense. And I think Georgia showed the ability to have a power run game last year against Texas. I think Georgia's just as about as good of a running team, if not slightly better than they were last year. And I think this Texas run defense probably isn't as good as last year. Granted, I will say Texas has done pretty good, really good against the power run this year. They've more so struggled whenever you're tacking outside of the tackles. So I'll be curious to see how Georgia attacks outside of the Florida game. And Florida is the best running back they've played to this point. And Georgia certainly has the dogs, no pun intended, back in the backfield to do that type of running game against Texas. So I'm not gonna give the defense the benefit of the doubt in this game. They got to wash away. This is the chance to wash away that Florida game on the road against a team who's going to try to do the same exact thing that Florida did to you. This is your chance to wash that away. And then offensively, I think Texas will have some success. I think Sarkisian's really found their identity with the spread offense. They found their 5 linemen. They found the roots for success. The problem is you're going against Georgia and Kirby Smart on the road at night. I think they'll have some success, but I also think there's going to be some mistakes. And I don't think the defense is good enough to make up for those mistakes.
No, I completely agree. All right, Jake, with that being said, let's go ahead and hear from our friends at Underdog, and then we will update everybody on our all-in horns entry of the week.
Football is back, and Underdog is the best place to make picks and win money all season long. Playing on Underdog is easy. Just pick whether your favorite players will go higher or lower on stats like touchdowns, receiving yards, interceptions, and more. Get your picks right, and you could win up to 5,000 times your cash. You can play with as little as $1. Download the app today and sign up with promo code HORNS to score $50 in bonus funds when you play your first $5. That's promo code HORNS. Millions of fans have already won billions making picks on Underdog. Will you be next? Underdog, make picks. Win money. Must be 18 and up. 19 and up in Alabama, Nebraska, 19 and up, and in Colorado for some games. 21 and up in Arizona, Massachusetts, and Virginia, and must be present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Offer not valid in Maryland, Michigan, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. In New York, call the 24/7 HOPE line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. That's 467-369. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/play and get terms _DFS_.html for details.
All right, Jake, we've got our all-in horns entry of the week, and this is what it is going to look like for the people. I've got Taylor Green against LSU with higher than a rushing touchdown, or higher than half a rushing touchdown, so just a rushing touchdown. And then I've got Devin Achane with higher than 81.5 rushing yards against the Washington Commanders on Sunday Morning Football overseas.
Football is back, and
All right, that was my bad. Bad button pusher.
Every week you mess up a button press. It's
Somewhere along the line, I mess up a button press.
impressive, really. You're gonna have to say the entry, or I lost the button press. Completely threw me out.
Jake, all you got to do is give yours.
Okay. I have team picks now here in Kansas City, which is nice. So I have Alabama -3.5. I saw that line at 3.5. I've seen it 5.5 on other sites. So Underdog graciously giving us a couple points there. So I took them and took Alabama 3.5. And then I like Jeremiah Love higher than 1.5 rushing and receiving touchdowns. After the way the Pitt coach said he doesn't care if they lose 110-0. So I think with that type of mentality, you're setting yourself up to get your butts kicked in a game you were probably already going to get your butts kicked in anyways. And so I think Notre Dame will be running the ball plenty, and Jeremiah Love will have 2 to 3 touchdowns.
I hate that I like this entry. I wish I could tell you I really don't love this entry, because anytime I feel good about an entry, it completely flops. I hate that I like this one.
Yeah, and especially since this one's a more risky one, as far as you know, we're at over 10x odds on it, which is the fun way to do Underdog, to get those odds stacking up, and kind of hunt for the big fish. We've done well this year, both of us have on Underdog, ultimately up quite a bit. But hopefully hunting another one of these big ones will set all of our all-in horns listeners right. Because I know, as well as we've done personally on ours, we have not come in clutch for the all-in horns prediction. We need a big win this week, and I think we have the ticket to do it.
Yep, I think so too. All right, Jake, let's go ahead and get into Week 12 slate of games. And the first one we want to talk about is that Notre Dame Pitt game at Pitt. Number 22 Pitt, ranked, by the way. Notre Dame 12.5-point favorites, over under set at 55.5.
Yeah, obviously, I like Notre Dame in this game. I like Notre Dame big in this game. I would have picked them big anyways. Pitt has no business being ranked. This is a good football team against a bad football team, and it will play out like that. I imagine this game will be done and dusted by halftime.
No, I agree. All right, South Florida. Sorry, I will give my prediction as well in that game. I think Notre Dame covers that 12.5-point spread. Over under wise, I don't know if it gets up 55.5, because I think Notre Dame's going to have to do the majority of that scoring. I would say Notre Dame 35, Pitt 10. So I guess I'd go under on that 55.5 line. All right, number 24, South Florida. Currently, they are the 12th seed getting in as that G5 auto bid, taking on Navy. And South Florida is 9.5-point favorites over Navy, and the over-under set at 65.5. Jake, I actually like the over in this game, as crazy as that might sound. I'm also rooting for the over in this game, just because I think that would be a lot of fun. The only thing that could prevent that from happening is if Navy doesn't get the big plays, and they just slowly go down the field and take up all the time and just limit the amount of possessions, which they might do because it might be their best chance to win that game. So I'm hoping for the big play, Navy. I'm hoping for not taking off a lot of time on the clock and limiting possessions. But I do think that if Navy wants to win this game, that's the way they're going to have to play. I'm going to give actually Navy the line there. I think USF wins this game, but I think Navy keeps it in within 10.
I'm actually opposite of you completely on this one. I think USF wins, and I think the under hits in this game. I see it being like a 31-17 type game. It's probably about where I have it. But I do think South Florida ultimately wins. I kind of hope they lose just for the madness that is the G5 this year. There is no Boise State this year. It is truly just, and I kind of want James Madison to get it. I just like James Madison. It's the Dukes. You can't help but, and it's cool. They're pretty new to FBS. They were in the FCS for a long time, and so I would like Navy to win this game, but I think South Florida ultimately wins it and covers. And I
They
do like
had the
the under.
courage. They had the courage to do something that North Dakota State has never had the courage to do, and that's go from the FCS to the
Yeah,
FCS.
Appalachian State had the courage too. North Dakota State's just sitting there.
They're just,
I guess they're just winning trophies over and over.
yeah. So, all right, Jake. Let's go ahead and just jump over to the other big game of the week. Number 11 Oklahoma taking on number 4 Alabama. Bama 5.5-point favorites. On other sites, on Underdog, it was at 3.5. Over under set at 45.5 points. Jake, man, this one's tough. I'm gonna actually let you take the lead. I might branch a little bit off of what you say.
I think Bama ultimately wins this game by about 7 to 10 points. I think that's about what they are better than OU. I think OU will be competitive in this game. Their defense will kind of keep them in it. But I think Alabama at this point, the Florida State game really doesn't mean much to me as far as for what Alabama is. Alabama's defense has been really good all year. And I think they have one of the better defenses in the country that aren't talked about purely because they lost the Florida State game. And the defense that we saw in that game. But that is not the defense that has been on the field for the rest of this year. They have just, I mean, they have looked like a team that is the reason why I had them in my national championship game. I'm feeling pretty solid about that pick.
Teams are averaging about 17 to 20-ish points a game against Alabama after the 31.
17.2 points against on the season after giving up 31 in the opener. That's 13th best in the nation. They have the 14th best passing offense in the nation. I think Alabama's just an elite team, and I think they ultimately win this game. So I like Alabama to cover. The over-under's tough. I mean, I'm trying to think of what I'm going to say the score. I think it's like 27-17. Which is right on the bubble. I'll put it this way. I'm not touching the over-under. I'm not even going to give the listeners a prediction on the over-under. That to me is just that 45.5 is the perfect yardstick for the over. To me, you're just flipping a coin if you throw that out there.
Yeah, it's pretty spot on. It also could be just one of those games where Alabama's offense is just clicking and they just completely dominate Oklahoma in terms of this is a revenge game. This was our most embarrassing loss last season, and we're going to make you pay for it type game where Alabama just goes 35 points. Oklahoma manages to score 13, 14 points out of it, and then boom, the over hits. I don't know if it's going to be that game, but I'm going to go Bama to win this game. And since we have Bama at least covering 3.5, I'm going to say Alabama wins 28 to 20. 28-20. I think it's going to be that type of game. And that would also mean the overhit with 48 points total. So again, I think it's a very close line. Again, if as Jake and I are kind of hinting at, don't bet the over under on this game. Now betting the spread, feel free to take whatever bet you like there. All right. Number 21, Iowa, Jake, at number 17, USC. USC, probably one of the worst defenses in the history of college football. USC, 6.5-point favorites over the Hawkeyes. Over under set at 49.5. Is that the highest over ever in an Iowa game, says Jake from State Farm?
Which is pathetic. 49 and a half is really not that much, but normally the Iowa game is just lock it as the lowest over under. I don't know who I like in this game because I don't think either of these teams are particularly good. Man, you take this one first. You made me pick OU for you. Take this one first.
All right, yeah, I'll take this one. That's fine. I actually kind of like this Iowa team, and I don't think you feel the same way as I feel about Iowa. I think they go into USC and they win this game outright. So I'm going to take the Iowa money line. Now, if that makes you feel a little bit better to bet Iowa spread, then I would take them plus 6.5 in terms of just kind of being on the safe side of things. But I think Iowa wins this game. Over under at 49.5. I'll take the under just because I think Iowa's going to be able to squeeze them out lower possessions. I actually think Iowa will be able to just move the ball slowly and kind of run the football and not necessarily just have big plays against USC. But I think Iowa could win this game 24 to 20 or something along those lines.
I'm going to say USC wins, but I'm going to take Iowa to cover. I think that 6.5 is just a lot of points. I think it's rightfully disrespecting Iowa because I also disrespect I'll put it this way: like Iowa is a good cover machine. Like they're good at covering when they're underdogs, and it's a big because it's going to be an ugly. That Oregon Iowa game, by the way, I could not have been more spot on as to what exactly that game was going to be and how exactly it was going to play out. It played out to a T how I thought it would. I imagine this one's a little higher scoring than that game was. I'm going to say 27-24 USC wins, but I think it'll still have trademarks of just looking like an ugly. Somehow there'll be a safety in one of the. Maybe there'll be two safeties. Like Iowa's offense will score 20 and they'll get two safety. There'll be a safety somewhere. That's actually a good prop bet to start doing on Iowa games. Just bet that any safety.
Anytime safety happening. Yeah, I like it. All right, Jake, you are going to take this one first, but I also already know what I'm going to say regardless of what you're going to say. Number 19, Virginia at Duke. Duke 5.5-point favorites over the ranked team, Virginia. 57.5 on the over-under.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised to see this line, to be honest, just to see like Duke 5.5. It's down to 4.5 now as of time of recording. Virginia did just lose to Wake Forest. The ACC is a just slop this year, an absolute slop fest of teams. Florida State just bottoming out after looking good really hurt the conference. I'm gonna say Duke wins. I just at this point I think it's and I guess I'll say cover. I guess. Actually, I'm going to take Virginia to cover. I do think Duke wins, though. I do think it's funny because Duke's sitting here with one ACC loss, but 4 losses on their schedule. So they're 5-4, tied for first place in the ACC.
Yeah, hate it. It's so
Duke has a chance to be a 4, maybe even 5 loss team because they could maybe lose one more and still get in. Because guess what? After this, they play North Carolina and Wake Forest. So they're probably at most going to lose this one ACC game to Virginia. Like Duke very well could be a 4 or 5 loss team that ends up making the playoffs by winning the ACC championship.
Yeah, it's not out of the realm of possibility, which is just a bizarre, crazy thing to even try to comprehend in our little college football brains, but that's the world we live in currently. Duke sitting at 4-1 in conference play with SMU 5-1, Pittsburgh 5-1, Virginia 5-1, and Georgia Tech at 5-1. And if Duke wins out with a couple of other losses, which I mean, if they beat Virginia, there you go, right there. There's one of the losses that they need to happen. Pittsburgh, it wouldn't be a conference loss, but Pittsburgh losing to Notre Dame wouldn't necessarily hurt in terms of that would also, could you imagine Pittsburgh Duke ACC championship with both teams a minimum of 3 losses?
Hey, the Pitt coach would be happy. He wouldn't care that they lost by 50 to Notre
Wouldn't
Dame.
care. He wouldn't care. Wouldn't care. All right, Jake, that is going to do it. Oh, I didn't give my pick. Virginia at Duke. I think Duke wins this game outright. I'm going to give Duke the win. I don't know if I can give them the spread, but I will pick Duke.
It's a lot of points.
Yeah, 5.5. It seems
down to 4.5 now.
Down
but
to 4.5.
This feels like it should be a 2.5, 3.5.
Yeah, and I don't love giving Duke game, but I actually don't mind giving them the win. So if you just want to do Duke to win, that's fine with me. Over under 57.5. I'm going to take the under. Actually, I think that's a lot of points in this game. But then again,
Yeah,
it's the ACC,
I think,
and I don't know what's going to be higher.
Yeah, I just stay away from betting the ACC as a whole. To be honest, it's just
yeah. I don't typically.
Yeah, I tried riding the Miami train, then it backfired on me, and I'm just out. I'm just not touching the ACC.
Individual players in the ACC, Haynes King rushing touchdowns. It's typically a fairly safe bet. Malachi Toney at Miami with yards and stuff. He's a yard machine. But yeah, I typically don't touch ACC games really after like week 4. I was like, I'm done trying to figure out what this conference is. So, all right, that's going to do it for today's episode of All In Horns. Join us tomorrow for the immediate reaction of the Texas-Georgia game. Jake, even if Texas loses, I don't think I'm going to be totally heartbroken unless we lose in just heartbreaking fashion. Now we win this game, you might see the happiest set of fellas you've ever seen. And you just saw Texas beat Oklahoma in a game where Texas had no shot, according to the experts, of beating Oklahoma this year. So Texas gets past this game at Georgia with a win. Get ready to sound the alarm because I'm going to go nuts. I'm going to say some ignorant stuff on this podcast. So without further ado, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. That is Jake Jimerson. I am Tanner Carlson. As always, ladies and gentlemen, welcome.
All In Sports Network. We love sports.